Hello there and welcome. It's the 4th of September 2021. It's a Saturday. The sun is trying to peek out through the clouds here today, so it's going to be quite a nice day here in South Wales in the UK. And as it's Saturday, it's Sketchbook Saturday, I call it, which basically means a catch up on the art I've been doing this week. Not all of which people have seen, but or I've shared everything so far. But let's get to it. So this is one of my square sketchbooks. They're about 8 inches square, the pages, 21 centimeters by 20. Is it 21 by 21? I think it is. No, 19.5 by 19.5. So it's a little bit less than about 8 inches, but it suits me just fine. This last week, when I went through my sketchbooks, was just a drawing. I added colour to it this week, and I am so chuffed with this one. I used chameleon marker pens, the colour tones with the colour tops. And the beauty of chameleon pens is it's so easy to get gradient colours or an area where there is no colour. Copics are fab and other markers are as fab, but the chameleons are definitely my favourites, it has to be said. Though I must admit, I am toying with the idea of getting a set of the Arteza architectural set of markers, their version of markers, can't remember what they're called, because those colours particularly appeal to me and they could be useful for dragging around with me if I decide to go out drawing and sketching in the near future, or not so, but I am just toying with the idea. This is all done in colours that pick up shades, colours from the distressed ink background here, and it's quite vintage or grungy looking. I've even got brown being blended into blue in one place. Who'd have thought it? Looks quite rusty steely. But dots of souffle pens and the Moonlight Jelly Rolls from Sakura, and there are in places I've added glaze pens to some areas to help to lift them up even more when the light catches them. Use sparingly is the key here. But I'm really quite pleased with that one. It makes me smile when I look at it. A drawing I started and haven't finished. And then I'll come back to this. But have a look at my other stuff. This is this week's colouring template for the Angela Porter's Colouring Book fan Facebook group. And it's a mandala. Brett, who runs the group essentially, requested a mandala for this week because I hadn't done a mandala for so long, so I did. And as it was going to be out on more or less the first day of September, and my mind has gone to autumn. It won't be long before it's the astronomical equinox, round about the 21st of September, which is the first day of autumn in terms of astronomical. It's when the sun enters Libra, I think it is, yeah, Libra. And it marks that point in the year, you know, one of the quarter, the Earth travelling around the sun and a quarter place along its way. I mean, there are other celebrations that time, you know, it's the autumnal equinox. And as far as I'm concerned, the scientist in me likes that. The not so scientist in me loves the changes of seasons and the turning of the year and the cycle, how we go round and come back to the same thing, but it's different. Every year it's different. And that's what life is like. There's cycles in life, and we often return to same situations. But they're never quite the same. They're different. We have the same challenges, the same but different. So I find that, you know, it's just one of those things. So there's pumpkins in here, there's mushrooms, there's acorns, there's leaves, and seed pods in here. I had to put some hearts and stars in and some little geometric patterns. My printout went off the page because before I converted it into a colouring template, I needed to print it out because I did do another mandala, and when I printed it I realised that everything was far too small for people to get any detail in. This is one of the things I do struggle with working directly digitally. I need that scale, and I tried to get it because I put a background grid of quadrille paper down and to give me an idea of the dimensions, but I still get it wrong. So but there's that one. Two others I've been working on, which I have shown. One, I have done more work on both of them, but only a little bit. Pen drawings on distress coloured paper and colouring in with the chameleon colour tones, and I just love it. I love the intensity of the colours I can get. I love the consistency of the colour, that lack of texture and so on. Even though I love it in watercolour and so on, I'm incapable of producing anything that I like, it seems. Or I perhaps just haven't found that magic way of doing it. And you'll see some of my disasters with this shortly. But this will take me a while to do, but there is no rush in doing it. And this is another one that I started. And again, I'm trying with both of them, I'm trying to pick up colours that are in the background or colours that tone in nicely with them. This one, I've gone for, I love these rusty colours, but what I'm trying here, which you may not be able to see unless I bring this up, hopefully, you see I've been adding lines and texture with actually the chameleon fine liners, but I haven't used them in the chameleon sense of colour blending. I've just used the colour as they are because they were there, and I'm not so sure about that. You know, on the wings it works, or the wings or the shells, whatever you want to call them down here, it works quite nicely, although I wish I hadn't done such ornate patterns there, but it helps to bring some texture out. It's something I can try, and I can go back to it at a later date. But overall, I'm really quite pleased, and I love this combination of these browns and blues and greens. It just reminds me of rust and verdigris and metals and things like that, as well as having it in a, I don't know, this has quite a sea feel to it, an ocean or coral reefy, weirdly kind of feel to it. So there's this. This is, I'll come back to this sketchbook in a moment, so I'll keep it out. My camera will self-focus, it will. This book, I think this one you've seen, I'm really pleased with this. I don't think I had done last week, but I've added details with Sakura Moonlight pens, just to add some interest there. Again, this, I coloured this. Did I colour this with? No, I didn't colour this with markers. No, I didn't. None of these have. Can't remember what I used for this. I mean, yeah, I'm happy with it. I like it. In fact, I like this one a lot. I love the vintage tones and colours, and I've just used black line for adding shading and trying to get a feeling of shape and volume to the different parts. So I'm really pleased with that one. This one you've definitely seen over here. And this one, I've tried adding colour to it, but I've tried using watercolours and distress inks, and I'm not happy with them. And of course, if I use marker pens, it'll go straight through to the other side. So this one is being left as it is. Find my inner courage. Well, I'm trying with art. These two haven't changed at all in the last week. This one I haven't done anything with because I really don't know whether I like it or not. This one I think I've added a bit of shading with a biro. Do you think I can find that black biro? I've put it somewhere. I don't know where it's gone. These are two drawings in the book, and again I am aware that I'm not going to be able to add colour with markers. So it's basically just drawing for the heck of it more than anything. But I prefer this kind of style where the edges are more random, less structured than others. And there is a kind of balance here. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them. Who knows? This one, more of an edge to this. This is done. I'm not extending it that way. I like that shape as it is, with, you know, sort of like rectangular with these at the bottom rather than it being offset. And I quite like what I've done here. I don't know where it came from, but I enjoyed creating it. And this is one that I was doing this morning. and last night. And I really quite like this one, and actually parts of it tie in with other stuff I've been doing this week. It's very messily drawn. It's more of a sketch. I start sketching in places and it transfers to other areas, and I just don't stop and think, but it's just trying ideas out. I've got this label here, or a frame. I'm tempted to put another one inside if I do anything with this. But I've been drawing herbs, spices this week as part of Sketchtember. That's what I'm going to show you in a moment. And so some of those things I've drawn, the shapes I've drawn, have found their way into here. So I've got kind of sage leaves, the shapes of sage leaves here. These are the stamen from Saffron. And this is rosemary. Very stylized. Not a botanical sketch drawing or sketch, not a detailed photorealistic sketch, drawing in any way, shape or form, just pattern from it. Because one thing my art is about, it's all about pattern, and I'm happy with that. So I've got a few of these pages left in this sketchbook with things like this. Part of me thinks it'd be a good idea to actually use them in other ways, take them out and use them in a different way, but I may think about that. There's those, which I just want to show them again because I'm just so chuffed with these. I really, really am. And for me to say I'm chuffed with work, you'll know is something. It's like this one, because I need to move this over. I'm really chuffed with this. I really, 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 really am. Can't tell you how happy it all makes me. Just move those, sorry if it goes yet. Whoosh in front of the camera. Told you I'm not an expert on this, and I don't think I'm ever going to be an expert on making videos. My brain just doesn't work on it. So it's raw, it's me as I am, not edited, unless I waffle on about rubbish and I decide that you wouldn't want to hear it. So I take the voice track off and either do a talk over, or add music. Usually speed it up so it's not quite so boring and dull. I'm not entirely sure that the videos I'm doing of digital drawing or colouring are working, but that's something for me to consider. So it's Stamptember. Not stamped, it is Stamptember if you're a stamper. I've got this problem in my head because I keep writing Stamptember and I go, no, I'm doing Sketchtember. It's a big sticky label, one of many I need to remind me of things. But I've chosen to do a prompt list by Deadly Dots, who you can find on Twitter or on Instagram, and they've come up with a list of herbs and spices to sketch this month, and that's exactly what I've done. Now, it's been a long time since I've done sketching in the sketchbook for sketching's sake, really, in the way that I do. And of course, to me, a sketch means more detail. But it's an opportunity for me to try out different ideas, different things, and to mess up right royally. Yeah, I do. And sometimes I look and I think, well, that seemed like a good idea, but dear goodness, what was I thinking? And then I think, right, let's see if this, no, that just makes it worse. But, this page I'm quite happy with. It's higgledy-piggledy, things aren't spaced neatly and tidily, but then that's the nature of a sketchbook. I have used chameleon markers to colour in most of the elements. I used a fine liner up here to draw the texture of the leaf surface, or the pattern of it, not very well. And here I smudged what I'd done, so it's just a blob. I decided I'd put a gradient of the colours here and what colours I'd used. If I can't remember. Of course, naturally, I didn't do it for the purple, did I? Well, it's actually a mauve, and that's more of the purple grape, which is a very dark colour. So one thing about chameleon markers, I wish they had a few more colours in the range that filled in some gaps, because sometimes it goes from quite a light colour to quite a dark version, and there's nothing in between. And although you can get that by adding colourless blender, it'd be nice to have it so you go to this intermediate colour. There's that option to stop there completely. It's just me. I could dig the Copics out and make use of those for that kind of thing, but it's a potch, and I've already got my desk full of my box of chameleons and the colour tops and my work and mug of tea, you know, the essentials. Don't forget the tea. So my idea as well was to add, you know, so I can practice my hand lettering a bit, my handwriting, which has gone lopsided, and keep notes that I like about these plants as I look for references and look them up. And just, you know, some embellishments on this one. You can see I've put dots of gold, and that's a gold glitter pen, a uni ball glow glitter pen, the Signos, but I use the clear Sakura glaze pen to trap the glitter onto the page so it doesn't rub off. The Rosemary one I'm happier with in some respects, and in others I'm thinking, oh, why did you do that? Why didn't you try this out first? It's these drawings up here of the flowers, which I did in Moonlight pens or Signo pens or Souffle pens, I can't remember which, but gel pens, and I'm there going, why did I do that? But actually they look almost like they're ghostly now. And this one I have got flowers on and so on, a lot more of. My wonky one, that was my first one with dreadful colour choices. This one is much better. And just trying to work out how the leaves on Rosemary go. It actually reminds me an awful lot of the Zentangle Tangle pattern Vertigo. So I used that kind of idea to draw things, but I needed it to be a lot more structured than a different kind of pattern, a different way of putting the leaves together than the Vertigo, because the Vertigo is quite random, whereas Rosemary is random, but the leaves come off at points together and overlap that way. There's some, you know, you get some bald spots, and this is a stylized version of it. What was interesting was I always look for scientific things because that's the scientist in me, and I particularly like microscopic images of cells and tiny forms of life and goodness knows what, rocks and things like that, because the invisible world, or the world that is invisible to our eyes, is fascinating. And so far the only one of the actually I didn't check for day 3, which is Saffron, and I haven't checked for day 4, which is today, which is time for microscopic images, but that may be something I do later today. But I found one for a cross section of a rosemary leaf under a scanning electron microscope, and that texture was lovely and fun to draw. I enjoyed that. It is very basic, very, you know, sort of like quite graphic in a way, I suppose, but I had fun drawing it. And this was quite fun to do a tiny little picture there with fine liners. And here these are, feels like souffle pens, a souffle pen. That's a fine liner, one of the chameleon ones. And that's quite fun to do. The colours are quite pastel and not the kinds of colours that I would be looking for Rosemary, but it was fun. And so it's things like this that make that I feel I've made a mistake with, but it's a sketchbook, so it's trying things out and learning. With this one I also had an image of seeds, rosemary seeds here, which would be hidden down inside the flower, and there was a really lovely image of the stamen with the blobs of pollen on there as well, so I was able to draw that. Didn't find that for sage easily. There wasn't anything much around for sage in terms of that, or perhaps I just didn't put the right search terms in, but that's quite nice. So then I decided that I wanted to do something else because I wasn't quite happy with what I'd done with sage and so on. I wanted to have a look at how I could work with things. So ignore the sage bits here because that was something I did this morning. But here I decided to fill a piece of coloured paper with ripped edges with drawings of sage leaves, different sizes, arrange them on there. I coloured them with a mixture of things. I used chameleon pens on some, Ecoline ink on others, and I did use watercolour paint on a couple as well, the Mission Gold Mugello, and then added embellishments because I thought, well, yeah, I'm not drawing them as if they're realistic, so let's do something with these as if they're a shape I want to fill with pattern. And so I used Moonlight pens, and these are souffles to add those textures, and that was fun. And then I thought, oh, well, what about texturing the background? I'm not sure that was such a good idea. I should have done half and half for comparison. But once I started, I carried on, and there was no stopping me until I ran out of, you know, not raggedy paper there. When I fixed it to the page, I put some old book papers from a really old chemistry book, you know, going back, it's about 100 years old most probably, you know, the best part of them. We're closer to 100 than it is to 50, put it that way. And so there's lots of them lurking around, and it's like you know, junk journaling or art journaling. I thought that'd be interesting for some texture. And along the bottom I just drew this, which is you know, it's a pattern I've drawn for donkey's years. It's a Zentangle pattern. I think it's Shattuck, however you say it. So I popped that there, and then I thought, oh, let's add a layer. So vellum, and I don't know if you can see, I'll pop that underneath, you may be able to do better. I drew the outlines of the leaves on the vellum, and that's in a moonlight, Jelly Roll Moonlight. Have I got one of these that actually has, there. And I added some lettering at the bottom and pop that on the top, so it's quite nice because the colours and the patterns show through and it tones it down. I find that quite nice. This was something I woke up this morning, sort of, not exactly woke up this morning with this idea, but the idea to use to try some typographic art or art, you know, lettering with this came to me, and I'll perhaps come back to that. It's day 3, Saffron. Oh my gosh, did I make a pig's ear of this? This is what I mean by, I really think I messed up with this in so many ways. This drawing of a crocus plant from roots to tip, I was really pleased with that. It is plain and simple, it's got the essence of it, and without colour. It's only the colour of the background, it stands on its own. I added shadow with neutral grey Copics, and I added shadow with a warm grey Copic, and they were enough to let that colour come through, so it just darkened it, and I was really pleased with that. These flowers here, I'm actually really pleased with those. I coloured them with distress inks because I wanted to pick up the colour from the background, and in this case I really wanted to make it more of a brighter bluey purple, because the saffron flowers are really quite blue purple, they're really bright and vibrant, but with the coloured background I wouldn't have got that. So those are lovely, and the little white spots on the petals actually helps to bring that sense of highlight and the volume of the leaf, the shape of the leaf. These ones are a bit of an unmitigated disaster because I used distress inks, but I was on this green background, so it picked it up there. I didn't think. And these are pictures of, these are actually the threads of saffron. These are quite stylized drawings though, because they will, it's looking down on the crocus plant from the top, the saffron plants. And it's what you'd see if you opened the petals out, and the shapes then, how they overlap, and there's 6 of them, and you've got 3 of these inside and 3 of these. I don't actually know if there really is 3 of each, but you know, I couldn't find a picture really that showed me clearly. I'm sure I could if I'd spent a lot longer looking, but it works for me. And some pictures of those and what they look like. I've got other little stylized drawings down here, but the background is just the green, it just looked, oh excuse me, I've got hiccups now, a very bare page, and I thought, oh, I'll draw some patterns on there with this is a fine liner. It's a slightly thicker fine liner, and it's in a sort of vintage mossy green. And I thought that'd be quite nice, so I started and I thought, oh, that'd be nice, and then I got to the top and I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Let's do that. I thought, I don't like that, so let's add some colour. Oh, I don't know, and dots. I'd done this once, I'd added these, so I just don't like their background, but there are elements of the page I do like. So I was on the point this morning of taking this out and cutting things out and redrawing or whatever, and I thought, no, let's leave it, Angela, as a reminder of what not to do. These little things, I took some of that coloured paper I've coloured with Distress Oxides, and I used a couple of paper punches, you know, tools that you can use to cut shapes of paper out of paper or thin card. So I've got, I think that's a 1.5 inch square, and these are 1 inch squares, inchies, and in colours that would tie in with this perhaps. And I thought it'd be nice to do little small detailed drawings and put a texture background on these. Actually didn't get to that one with the texture, doesn't matter. And that works out quite nicely, actually. I'm really, because the texture helps to lift the drawing to the front. It's, you know, it darkens the texture and sends it backwards. I think you can see the difference perhaps between these and these. I used Copics in greys to add shadow to that as well. And again, you know, some hand lettering. This is not my favourite style, but you know, you've got to try. And then this is another page. Again, this is something I did this morning before I went on to day 4. And again, it's using hand lettering or writing to add interest to to a drawing. So here I thought I'd make Rosemary Leaves out of the name Rosemary, and also its Latin thing. Very stylized writing, very chunky, so I can hold a lot of colour there. And this one I thought I'd try it with just hand lettering, and it's under background. Perhaps the colour I chose was too dark, but I'm not so chuffed on that. But the ones that I did in the this kind of writing, I may go back and use something like a souffle pen to fill those in and see what difference it makes. This though, I'm surprised at how much I like this, because I thought it would be quite nice. I redrew crocus plant, and this I did from memory. I didn't look back at the sketch. I just thought, right, let's just draw it. So it's similar, but it's not the same. No, it's not the same. I've simplified the petals and the way they curl a lot more. You know, I could have worked that one out, but I didn't, and just kept it plain and simple. And I thought behind it, I'd like to put a square of something that's almost the colour of saffron. I chose a camellia pen in its caramel as the colour, and so it's more of a golden brown than the golden colour that saffron liquid is, and the liquid you extract from saffron to use it. And I really like this and how that looks. I wish I'd put it down a bit further, but it's the first time I've done this. But if I hold it up, you see the background. I've written line after line after line of the same words, saffron and Crocus sativa, which is its Latin name, the scientific name for it. And it adds an interesting texture to it, and I didn't draw any lines on there to help me stay straight. So in some places the letters are bigger than others. This is going to be a pain. Will it focus? Yes, there we go, sorry. And so that really surprised me. I really like how that worked out. It'll be easy enough for me to extend, because I feel this needs to come down just a little bit, and that's easy enough to extend. The one thing I should have done though was to erase most of the pencil before I added the alcohol marker. Yep, I should have. And of course, if I go back to this page, I decided to try this out before I did the page I've just seen. And so these I really enjoyed doing. it's using the shape of the leaf but putting lettering in for what it is, and that was fun. These individual leaves are actually the shapes of letters. So I've got there's an S, A, G and E here, but they are a lot more subtle than these. Here I've mirrored the letters as well, so that it's a mirror image. And that was easy enough to do, surprisingly. Once you've written it the right way around, it's easy enough to do it, flip it. Well, it is for me. So, years of teaching science and having to look at things upside down and teaching, and don't ask. So that was really good fun. And so today's Sketchtember is thyme. Thymus is the Latin, and there's loads of species of thyme I've discovered. And I'm trying to learn from what I've done before, not very successfully with the heading, you know, the title page or title, because I used distress inks to paint the letters, and then I used this coloured, that mossy coloured fine liner, thicker fine liner, to outline the letters, because they really didn't look right. It's okay, but I'm not happy with it. I think strong black or strong green, and of course I could just use alcohol markers over it, which is what I may do. And here I've got lots of drawings of bits of thyme. So I've got like the anthers, stamen. My biological knowledge of flowers has faded over the time. It's been a long time since I've taught it. But the bits with the blobs on the end that have the pollen, and then that's the bit in the middle that goes down to the ovary where the seeds are made, which is this bit, and there are the seed, you know, the ovary and things there. Interesting shapes, interesting motifs, and you know where they're going to end up. Well, if you've been following me long enough, you'll know I've got a book full of interesting shapes and patterns. Oh yeah, and motifs and, you know, things like that. So there's going to be some stuff going in there. So it's a drawing of a thyme flower close up, but I really want to simplify that, and I will do, because I can see what the shape is. There's actually one quite loby petal there, and the others are smaller and not quite so wide, or perhaps that's just perspective. The underneath's really interesting because this bit here seems to be, it's part of the sepals that go up around the bottom of it. But the leaves are arranged interestingly in thyme. They are sort of like arranged round points on the stem, and they're fluorescence around the stem, if that's the right word, where they go right the way round and grow out. And different species of thyme have got slightly different shaped leaves. They also smell and taste differently, which is interesting. So, you know, yeah, so lots of different kinds of thyme, but that's why it's SP for species, because this is something that's vaguely generic, because they'll all be quite similar. So I do want to have a look at some more pictures and add some drawings there, but I quite like the way I've done the drawings on this page. And I've started to add some colour with the chameleon markers. Not to all of them, because I want to leave that some uncoloured and some coloured to see the difference. And I think that's important to me. And I'm so much happier with this than I would be with ones that have been coloured with distress inks or the Ecoline watercolour or watercolours or Inktense pencils or anything else I've got. So finally, I think I'm finding what I need to work with, and others are just for mucking about with and reminding myself how much I love marker pens and digital art. I think that's the purpose of them in my life, is to remind me, Angela, you know you're useless with them. They have a purpose. Distress inks are for colouring paper. Nice to colour paper with. And not so good to use in other ways. Yeah, Ecoline, they've got their uses, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm wittering on so much. So this is where I've got to. I said this I'm really chuffed with, because that's something I've not done. I think I must have seen examples of things like this before, but I've never thought of trying it myself. But I like how that works. That's worked for me nicely. There are elements of this I love. Flowers I love. My little drawings along here. This one drawing. The background. Oh, the background. Oh, don't even go there, I think is the phrase. Let's not go there. And then this hand letter, this hand lettering, hand drawn typography. I actually quite like that, and it's something I'll explore with the others now. It's taking the shapes of leaves or petals or whatever, and using those to draw their names in, as it were. My scanning electron microscope I quite like as well. But that flower's quite nice. The white gel pen highlights. Anyway, I've whittled for over half an hour. I really do hope you've enjoyed having a look at my sketchbook with me, or sketchbooks, my work this week. And I don't know when the next video will be, because I'm going to spend my time focusing on getting Sketchtember done in the mornings. I can do that on video, but it's going to be much of a muchness. So I think I'll have a look at this, because I really am thinking about this. It's easy for me to do one a day, but it gets a bit samey, especially as life is samey. There's never much for me to say. So I need to think about this. But anyway, that's me thinking out loud. So whatever else you do, find time to be creative, enjoy your day, and please take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you once again. Take care now. Bye-bye.